Welcome to our discussion around disaster recovery, business continuity, and cybersecurity. We've already discussed about the electronic medical record, EHR. What we're going to talk a little bit about today is about downtime, business continuity, and of course cybersecurity, what that means, and the implementation of those efforts. Because healthcare IT changes so rapidly, your resources for business continuity, disaster recovery, and cybersecurity will basically be all online. There will be a number of articles for you to read, as well as videos. The first thing about disaster recovery is we really need to talk about why we have that. Now, obviously, it's good process to have the ability to recover data that you've lost or to prepare for a natural disaster so that you do have the uptime capability. And actually the CFR mandates that the healthcare operations of the facility must be able to continue during a disaster or during an emergency or have these plans in place. And ideally these data backup plans will be electronic, and that the disaster recovery plans and procedures make it as easily as possible to restore data. And we're really talking about this data that's not just PHI, but also organizational data. They also, it's part of HIPAA, but the testing plans are recommended but are not required under HIPAA. As far as risk management, the first thing that we kind of have to look at is the risk management. And really that risk management, again, that's that sound business philosophy, whatever industry that you're in. But it really comes down to analysis, management, and then evaluating these risks. So the analysis is required by the CFR. The healthcare organizations are required to conduct that. An accurate and thorough assessment of the potential risks and vulnerabilities, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of electronic protected health information held by the covered entity or by the business associate. Now, something we haven't really talked about is business associate. A business associate would be like a vendor or a consulting company that comes in. It could be another facility, either inside or actually outside of that organization that they're contracting to do work, whether it be a lab or whether it be other ancillary services, depending upon the size of the organization. But those business associates also required to comply to the HIPAA regulations and the regulations around PHI. During that analysis that is required, we then come to a risk assessment. Now, it's impossible to identify every single threat, but it does mandate that they do take into account as many as they can really kind of perceive. And some of those risks could be environmental, such as a hurricane or a fire. It could be infrastructure, like electrical downtime where electricity is cut off. So we need to be prepared for these different types of emergencies, including the ones where maybe the server crashes and we lose data because the internal operations are somehow compromised. There's also disaster recovery from if somebody were to take data. If the backup site, if somebody takes the data out of the facility and it's stored in a backup site and that data goes missing, or it's on a laptop or a thumb drive and the associate misses that. So, and we also have to have some sort of physical security as well, so that you have to have a keypad or a key. You have to somehow have some way of accessing the data center or the data in the hospital from a physical security standpoint. And again, these also extend out to business associates as well. So part of the risk management, they have to be to a reasonable and appropriate level. And really, those security measures that they're implementing, that reasonable and appropriate level, does provide some flexibility for the healthcare organization to really kind of figure out what they need more specific, and hopefully to make a reasonable and appropriate effort to manage those risks. So there is a little bit of play in the word as far as reasonable and appropriate in the judgment of the healthcare organization. After that, they have to do recurring risk evaluations. And this is not just the actual doing of these risk evaluations, but also the standards and the operational environmental changes that affect the covered entity, do they have the policy and procedures in place? So to comply with this regulation, they must determine what constitutes those environmental or operational changes that do potentially affect the risk. And that could be the installation of a new version of the EHR or an upgrade, installation of other ancillary services, in addition to additional medical specialties to a provider's practice, or an upgrade of a computer or of network hardware. And of course, one of the risk evaluations is if we put a data recovery plan in place, that movement to that new data recovery plan is a risk. So until that has been vetted out and is showing functional.